Welcome to U2 Spain Live. This week I'll be joined by our favourite Gestor and accounting expert Antonio, who will bring you all the information you need to know about two important tax topics. The new system for social security payments for self-employed people will be in the second half, and the changes to non-residents tax returns will be in the first half. And we'll also hear about the relaunch of Antonio's YouTube channel for English speakers like you. Join us with questions and comments on the live chat or in the comments below if you're watching afterwards, because you are a part of this too. You're very welcome to U2 Spain. Let's roll that theme tune. Here we go. Oh yes, that is very groovy. And speaking of groovy, let's welcome my expert guest for today. It's Antonio Lizana from paperwork.es. Hola, Antonio.
Hi, Scott. How are you doing? Good to be here on your channel again.
I'm very well, thanks, and it's great to have you here again. It's been too long, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while without talking with each other.
Yes, absolutely. Let's say a quick hello to the people on the live chat, first of all, as they're joining us. Susan McGee, good morning to you. And hola a todos en España de Francia. No se congela sin lluvia. Aha. Yeah, it's raining here. It's raining in both our places, isn't it?
Yeah, there is a bit raining around here, actually, at the moment.
Yes, and Russ Cam says good morning. I've not seen your name on here before, Russ. Welcome to the show, and welcome to everybody who's just joining us. Do give us a wave as soon as you get on the live chat and tell us who you are so that we know you're there. Paul Cook, good morning to both of us. And I'll keep on checking the live chat as you drop in, and you can start asking questions anytime you want. So as I said, it's a show of two halves today, two topics, and we will start immediately, I think, so that we can get every question and answer in. We'll start with non-residents income tax in Spain. So that's the IRNR. So what is that, and who is required to pay it?
Yeah, well, the taxes for the tax forms for the non-resident in Spain, as you said. ARNA is Impuesto de la Renta de No Residente in Spanish. Well, those that are non-resident, obviously, in Spain and have some assets or some economical interest in Spain has to do this tax form. It could be for different reasons. We are going to get focused today on those that have properties in Spain that could be rented or could be just vacant for their own use. But there are other reasons to do the non-resident tax return, like having business activities as a non-resident, or unemployment in Spain, even being non-resident. For example, having a capital gain to declare in Spain, or something that you have to do it. But we are going to get focused today on those that have properties in Spain and they are renting it or using for themselves.
Great. So what's the difference then if the property is rented or vacant?
Well, if it is vacant, they have to declare notional income or fictitious income for having the right of using the house in Spain as the second home, because in the Spanish law and in other countries' law, like in the UK and Ireland, for example, you have the right of not paying any tax over your main home, over your place of residency, but your second home or third home, you have to input tax for these properties. it happened the same in Spain. So if you are non-resident, your house in Spain obviously is not your home because you are non-resident. So for this property or these properties that you own in Spain, you have to declare in the tax form a certain amount of money and you have to add this money to your base of taxable income. And if you have a rented property, we will explain that better later, but obviously you have to declare the income, the net income that you have from this property.
Okay, that sounds very clear. Thank you for that. Say hello to Wayne. Paul Cook, did I say hello to you already? And Anton Kez, yes, done that. Lolly P says good morning to both of us. Anton Kez say it should read otra vez. It's raining again. And Yogi is back with us. Good morning, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Yes, thank you. And he says, I'm looking good. I think we're both looking quite good this morning. I've got a very shiny head over this side. I think I've got my light on too bright over there. But yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And thanks for the donation, Yogi, as always. Very generous. If anyone else wants to donate, you can do that through, there's sort of, well, it's down that side of the screen. There's a little dollar sign. You can do it through that, or you can do it through the QR code in the corner. I'll explain a bit later on like that. And Yogi says, smash that like button. Yes, we like that. Okay, so next question. What's the deadline for filing your taxes in each of those two cases, rented or vacant?
Well, for if your property is vacant, you have until the end of the next year to do the submission and declare this input tax. So you have until the 31st of December of the following year. So now, for example, for 2024, we have until the end of this year to do it. If you have a rented property, this is one of the changes that we had to apply this year in January 2025, because previously in 2023, we had to be declaring the income of the rented property per quarters, each 3 months in April, July, October, and January for each quarter of the year. But since 2024, we have to do it just one submission. We have to do it yearly. So this January 2025 is the first year when we have declared the rented property only in one form on January 2025 for the whole 2024. And the deadline was the 20th of January, not the 31st of January, but the 20th of January.
Okay, so that's the same time as you do your declaration for income tax and everything.
Well, it's the same for withdrawal. In January, the deadline for withdrawal retentions regarding self-employed people and companies, etc., is the 20th. But on January, for the VAT submission and the payment for the tax return, the quarterly forms for the tax return for self-employed people is actually the 30th of January, because in January we have to do the briefing of the years. So we have 10 days extra to finish all the accounts.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I confused myself there because I do have one retention.
Actually, one of the last video I did on our channel, we'll speak about that later, was about the tax calendar in Spain, which is quite confusing for everyone.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so expenses. Are there any expenses that can be deducted for rented properties, or does it depend on the country of residence of the owner?
It depends, indeed, because actually there is a huge difference between if you are resident in a European country or a non-European country. Because if you are within the European Economic Area, you can offset all the expenses related to the house when you are renting it. When you have the house vacant, you cannot offset anything. But when you are renting the place, you can offset your property maintenance, your mortgage interest, your property management fees if you pay them, or repairings that you have to do, taxes that you have to pay, local taxes, insurance that you do, garbage collection, all the expenses that you are supporting for the house to be rented, you can offset them. We'll explain a little bit better later how you can do that if you are not renting the place the whole year. But if you are not in a European country, your residency is not in Europe, but for example in the UK or in the States, you cannot offset any expenses at all, which is a huge difference on the tax bill, of course.
Yes, it would be. Yogi says, support the channel. Yes, indeed. And Lisa Hibbert says, good morning, Scats and Antonio. Thinking of Chris and family at this time. Yes, indeed.
We too.
We are too, yes. And he will be back with us next week, though. Jason says, good morning, slightly late, internet issues. Yes, that's Antonio had those as well, didn't you? Or more of a computer issue. You had to go to your office and fetch a different
Yeah, I had
computer.
a very last minute problem, but I was working early this morning, so I had time to sort it out. Luckily,
Yes,
to be on the channel, to be on the
absolutely.
show.
Talking about deductibles, can you deduct mortgage interest payments if the property has a mortgage?
Yeah, it is possible. If you are renting the place, you can if you are living, as I have said, in an European country, you can offset the interest of the mortgage. And well, I can explain now, if you want, what happened when you are not renting the place the whole year. Because if you are renting the place with a long-term contract during the whole year, you can offset all the expenses. But say that you, for example, are renting the place per weeks or per months, or maybe you have a long-term contract but has finished in the middle of the year or something. If you, at the end of the day, has rented the place only for a portion of the year, you have to do the calculation to get the prorate of the expenses, in the way that if you, for example, has been renting the place 40% of the days of the year, you can offset only 40% of the expenses of that year. You cannot offset all the expenses, which is a common mistake sometimes when someone tries to do the submission for their own, and then in a tax audit, this can mean in getting in trouble with the tax office. You can offset only for the percentage of time that the place has been rented. So we have to do the calculation for that.
That is good to know. Pro rata, that's for the English speakers. And I'll answer your question just in a second, Jason. I said I'd tell you about the GoFundMe, just in case people don't know about QR codes. You can hover your phone over that when you're on the camera, and it brings up a link that takes you to the GoFundMe page. You can also get to it in the video description. There's a super link. It's just under the video description itself. Easy to find. If you click on that, you can get all, and it's all supporting U2 Spain, and you can have contact details for me. So if you need to write in any questions, that makes everything easier there. You can even watch my music promo video from that super link as well. So if any of you are interested in that, you can do that. So if you've learned something of value, and will learn something of value for the rest of the program, or you've been entertained, then do click on the like button and subscribe, and use that QR code in the corner to help us help you. If everyone puts the cost of a cup of coffee or 3 into the pot, then the electric keeps working, and I keep on smiling because I run on electricity. Right. So let's get to.
There is a question from Jason Webb. If you want, I can try to answer him.
Yes, I think he means capital gains, but rather than inheritance tax. But yes, go for it.
Yeah, well, actually, I guess that he mean that if he buy a property in Spain and then sell it to buy another one, he won't pay capital gain. He's saying inheritance tax, but inheritance tax is involved if you, Jason, died. So I guess that what you mean is that if you buy a property in Spain and sell it to buy another one, you can be exempt of paying capital gain of the tax return, which is correct if you meet the requirements, which is actually not being 5 years in the property, but 3 years. You have to be only 3 years being resident in Spain and being living on that property. And if you sell it and you buy a new house within the 2 years prior to the selling or after the selling. It's not have to be after. You can actually reinvest the money before you sell the old property. So you can do that the 2 years before and the 2 years after the selling of your previous house. Then you can be exempt of the capital gain. Always that you are reinvesting all the capital gain that you've got. Not if you reinvest only a portion of it, it will be a partial exception. So that's correct. Only that is not inheritance taxes, but income tax through the capital gain.
Excellent. Thank you for
I
that.
hope that this is what he meant. He meant.
Yes.
So.
Yes, he says later on, he says, sorry, yes, capital gains.
Okay, good. Thanks, Jason, for the question.
Absolutely. Adam Farmelo says, morning all, seems like the sun's trying to come out here in Wolverhampton. Never. I think somebody should write to the papers, and might be an open window to wash the car. Kevin says, good morning. What if you're living in Spain on a non-lucrative visa, however, a non-EU citizen?
If you are living in Spain, you are resident in Spain, so you don't have to do the non-resident tax return, but the standard tax return as a Spanish resident. So this regulation of the non-resident doesn't affect you. And of course, if you have a property rented, you can offset all the expenses as an European resident.
Great.
It's not a matter of the citizen of the citizenship, but of the residency.
Okay. And Jason's possible plan is to buy a cheap rural property for 5 years on the NLV, then buy a more expensive closer to the coast after 5 years NLV when I can use savings.
That's a good plan. When you stay at least 3 years on that place and you sell it and reinvest the money, you won't pay any capital gain if you get some capital gain on the selling.
So it has to be your main place of residence, that house. That's the rule, is
Exactly.
it?
It's very important to maintain the residency, to keep the records on the town hall, on the empadronamiento, which is the town hall registration for citizens. So you have to maintain active the registration there, and you have to maintain proofs of being living, in fact, in Spain during these 3 years. I always advise to my clients to have a credit or debit card in a Spanish bank account and use this credit card for shopping weekly or at least 2-3 times a month, which is the easiest way to prove to the tax office that you are in fact living here in Spain. If you go shopping every week to the supermarket in Spain, obviously you are living in Spain.
Right. Anton Cares said, this is an interesting one. I can probably answer this one myself. He's seeing many non-lucrative visa people with YouTube channels. Is YouTube income considered passive income on the non-lucrative visa? And so is it subject to any or all of the following social charges, VAT, income tax? No, it's not passive income. That's my answer. But Antonio, you can expand on that.
That's a question for another video. Actually, there are a lot to talk about that because it depends on how often you get this income. If you get income, how much you get from the YouTube channel. It could be sometimes considered as a passive income, but it's difficult. It depends. We have to study the case individually to answer. It's not that. That's not an easy question. It's a lot of little things to study for each case to answer. Sorry.
Interesting. Yes. But in my case, it's an income.
In your case, you are doing that as something include on your activity as a self-employed. So you have to declare that as a self-employed income. It's not a passive income in your case. In other cases, it could be if it is a little amount, and you are not doing that in a very professional way, but you just have some followers, you are generating some income in YouTube, it could be considered as a passive income, but it depends. We have to study each case, as I said.
Interesting. Jason says a bit of an internet lag contributing to spelling issues. Yeah, there is a lag. I know there's a lag of 23 seconds in between you writing the message and it coming up here. And so Jason says he's shopping credit debit card for tax proof. Great advice. Thank you.
I'm happy to know.
Yeah.
I expect that this could be useful for you, Jason, and everyone else.
Yes. And Ant says, it depends, EP. Yes, I haven't shown that on the screen yet.
Yeah,
That's
it depends. Sorry. Well,
one of our catchphrases.
you can drop us a consultation. We have a first meeting for free for a fast consultation. So don't hesitate to reach us. And I don't know exactly if the pronunciation of the name is correct, and we will study your case a little bit. Okay.
Yes, that's Ant. He's an Anthony like you,
Uh-huh.
and Ant and Kez. They're a couple. So and very good friends too. So let's move on to the next question. Depreciation. This is something that might be tricky to understand and get your head round. What's that all about? What does it mean?
Yeah, well, actually, depreciation is something that sometimes is difficult to understand for individuals because it's something that is a fictitious thing. It's not a real expense. It is that when you buy a property, you invest money on that property. It is an investment. So we can offset a portion of this investment each year as an expense against the tax bill for the non-resident tax return, always that you are renting the property and you are living in an European country, not in Spain, obviously, or you will be resident. So the depreciation percentage is 3% per year, and we have to base that on the cadastral value or the purchase price. It depends. We have to do some calculations, and we get how much we can expense each year for that concept, for the depreciation. So it's something that will help you to reduce the tax bill if you're renting the place.
Good to know. Jason says, after watching many non-lucrative visa videos, if you are non-EU, then YouTube income is considered working in Spain, which is not allowed on the NLV. As Antonio said, it depends.
It depends. Usually you're right. Usually it's not possible to have that with a non-lucrative visa, because the non-lucrative visa is supposedly that you are not going to work. But sometimes the income from YouTube could be coming more from a hobby than a professional activity. So that's why we have to study each case separately.
Yes, indeed. Lisa Hibbert says, I'm resident in Spain, Andalusia. I own 2 full-time rentals in the UK. What I can't work out is, do I pay full tax on my rentals or only on a percentage of it? Not sure if I've read this once.
Well, Lisa, you are actually in the opposite situation that we're explaining today. You are resident in Spain and have properties in the UK. So then what you have to do every year is the standard tax return as a resident in Spain. And there you have to declare your worldwide income, including, there are some exceptions, but the renting a place in the UK is not one of them. So as a resident in Spain, all the taxes regarding this rental is taxable in Spain, and you have to declare it with your income, your expenses, like a Spaniard that owns a property in Spain and rent a place. It's exactly the same. The only difference is that the paperwork that you have to manage is slightly different, because you have bills in English that eventually for a tax audit has to be translated or something. But at the end of the day, the regulation is exactly the same than a Spanish resident with a Spanish property that is being rented. It's exactly the same.
Good to know. Hope that answers your question, Lisa. And next question: how is the taxable base calculated when the property is vacant? Just explain taxable base for us as well.
Well, when the property is vacant, you have to calculate a percentage. We have two options. If the cadastral value of the place has been updated on the last 10 years, you apply 1.1% over the cadastral value. And if the value hasn't been reviewed by the cadastral office for more than 10 years, then you have to apply 2%. over the cadastral value. So this amount is the percentage. I mean, after doing this calculation of this percentage, this is the amount that you have to increase on your base of taxable income. But if the property, for example, is rented half of the year and is vacant the other half, then you have again to do a calculation to prorate this. I mean, you have to apply, for example, say that you have a property that has been reviewed less than 10 years ago, so you apply 1.1% over the cadastral value and say that it has been vacant the half of the year. Then you apply after that 50%. And this amount is what you have to add to the base of calculation for the taxable income. And if you have this situation that you have the property rented a portion of the year and vacant a portion of the year, you have to do two separate forms. One of it for declaring the rental and the other for declaring the input tax. The rental, as we have been talking just before, is due on the 20th of January, and the tax form for the house being vacant is due on the 31st of December. Normally in the Gestoria, we manage both simultaneously. When we do the case, we do both together, but the deadlines actually are different.
Yes, indeed. And so, what are the tax rates for non-residents based on country of residence?
This is another difference. Between the non-European resident and European resident, because if you are living in an European country, you are paying 19% over the base of taxable income, net income, and the non-European countries, the resident on that country pay 24% instead of 19%. So besides they cannot offset expenses, the tax rate is 24 instead of 19.
Okay.
Sorry for bringing bad news.
Yes. Sorry, non-residents. Ezra P has a question. I'm not quite sure if I understand this one. If I have a local apartment, but it's as a business for my work. Okay, so you're resident in Spain, but you have a separate apartment that's a business for your work. Is it separate? Yeah. And I buy a property that is an apartment that I live in. Yeah, so has a separate apartment, one to live in and one as a business. Can I claim one as a workspace?
Yeah, well, I understand that Ezra is explaining that the apartment that he has is the same place where he works. I hope that this is my understanding is correct.
At the moment, yes.
At the moment, so
then buys a property and lives in that.
If you want to offset, it's a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try to explain that quickly. If you want to offset home expenses, this is something that we could explain it better in another show. If you want to offset home expenses, you have to declare which is the size of the room or the space that you are dedicating for your job. For example, I use this part of my home for doing the videos. This is the set where I do the videos, and when I have to work from home, I use this room. So you have to calculate how big is the place, 5 meters, 10 meters, whatever. But very important, it has to be a place that you dedicated only for your job. It cannot be saying, I use the table or the living room with my laptop to work from there. No, it has to be a room that is only for your job. If you are under that case, you can calculate which percentage means this space over the whole space of your flat or house or whatever. So say that it is, for example, 10% square meter for your room for your job, and the total size is 100 meters, so it's 10%. But then the tax office considers that you are not working 24/7, so they consider that maximum or in average you will work 50 hours per week, which means 30% of the time of the week. So after you have the 10% for the space that you use, you have to apply 30% because you are not working the whole day. So you 10%. If you apply 30%, we have a result of 3%. So at the end of the day, with this example, you could offset home expenses, but only in a portion of 3%. So if you have the electricity bill for 100 euros, you will offset 3 euros. So what happened at the end? That usually people, usually it's not worth it to spend time in collecting the bills and send it to the gestoria and account it for and offsetting for. Maybe if you are paying the electricity bill and you are paying maybe 20 euros of VAT, and over these 20 euros you can offset 3%, which is how much? Nothing, So normally people don't do it. I had a case where a lady, now she's not working anymore, but when she was working, she was personal trainer. She had a two-floor home, and the main floor was her living space, and the second floor was the gym. And on the gym, she delivered the classes as a personal trainer. So she offset 50% of the home expenses. In that case, it's worth it to do it. But usually those that are working from home with a computer and maybe a desk and nothing else, maybe is maximum 3%, maybe 1, 2, or 3%. So normally my clients don't offset that, but legally it's possible if you apply these rules. I hope that this is easy to understand.
And the second part is, she said, if I buy a property, so do the work in a separate apartment, you can claim that as business expense, can you?
If you have a separate local, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. If you have a separate local from your home, you can offset all the expenses of that local.
Great.
For sure.
Susan McGee says, where can I seek the best advice from Antonio on what deduction I can request / evidence from my annual Spanish tax return? Last year was our first tax return, but advice was very vague. We are based in Tenerife.
Well, you can get the information from a lot of places, but the problem is that sometimes the information that you can find on the internet can not be updated, can be wrong. So, of course, I always advise to get the information from sources, official sources, which actually are not always reliable. Actually, we've been talking about the second topic about the Social Security contribution, and the Social Security website is not updated with the information for 2025 yet. So you don't know what to do. My advice is to find a professional that gives you the advice and explain you what you can do, what you can offer, because looking for the information on your own is quite risky.
Yeah. Your voice has got a bit muffled now, I think. Do you have anything, any notifications or other programs going on? Because they sometimes interfere with the sound.
Not sure.
It's come back now.
It's okay now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes it's if you've got something in the background like Dropbox or Google Drive or something like that, something updating somewhere.
Let me close a few windows.
Yeah.
And maybe it's what that.
I'll just quit my... Oh, yes. No, I want to keep that one open. Yes, I'm going to need that one in a minute. I need to open my email thing because then I can get your email from before that you sent, which has got your YouTube channel on. I'll sort that out in a minute.
Okay.
And Lisa says, thank you, Antonio. I've been paying Spanish taxes exactly as Spanish citizens. I had read full-time rental taxes start after a percentage has been taken off.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for putting this myth to rest.
That's correct. When you have a long-term contract and you are declaring with the standard tax return, you can offset 60% of the gross income that you've got from this rental, but always that the contract is a long-term contract. So you declare only 40%, and after that you can offset all the expenses that you have.
Good to know. And Weya, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, says short-term rental new law. Our community wants us to vote to forbid short-term rental. Yeah, this is to do with the housing plan from Sanchez, I think. Or local governments are putting these rules into action. Few owners are renting now, short and long both. Can they be grandfathered in? I'm not sure what grandfathered means.
Well, I was about to do the same question.
Yeah.
I thought it was something lost in translation on my side, but if you don't even understand, it's
Yeah.
better for me. But anyway, I guess that the question is for, I mean, if the community, it's out of this topic, but anyway, I will try to answer. If the community want to forbid, it is not possible to forbid the short-term rental. You can limitate the short-term rental. So the law, the Ley de Propiedad Horizontal, which is the law for this situation, permits the community to make a meeting, and if the community votes, I think, not pretty sure, but I think it's with 3/5 of the community vote that they are agree with limiting the short-term rental, then onwards, those that has been already approved before can continue developing the activity. But after that meeting, it won't be possible for someone else to activate a new license for a short-term rental on that property. But this is not a new law. It has been for a few years already. Maybe it has been some changes or something. I'm not a specialist on community management, so maybe there are some new laws that is not affecting to my job and can happen. But as far as I know, the limitation that can be done is the community do a meeting, they vote it, and if 3/5 of them are happy to not allow new licenses for that, they cannot do it.
Right. Jason just wants to say a quick thank you for the show with Ruth about funeral plans. I made contact with her and she phoned me back. I'll be setting up a plan in a few months. Good for you. Yes, I'll be doing the same myself. And he says, I'd appreciate a show on care homes in Spain with a relevant expert. I'd appreciate that as well if I can find somebody to come on the show, a relevant expert to come on. I had great difficulty in finding someone prepared to come on because there's a divergence in the I don't know if I can say the quality of care homes and the price of care homes and a lot of other things as well. So not having a lot of luck with that at the moment. And
I know someone that I could recommend. After the show, man, you can tell. Maybe I think a lady that work about that in Malaga province, and she's fluent in English, and maybe she can help with that. I will let you know.
Good, thank you. Yeah. Wafty, great name, Wafty. We are looking to sell our UK property and move to Spain. Will we have to pay any taxes in Spain on the equity made? It depends.
If you are going to move to Spain and you sell the property before moving to Spain, the Spanish tax office has nothing to do with that. The tax office will be involved to move to Spain, become fiscal resident in Spain, and after that, you sell the property. In that case, you will need to declare the capital gain of this selling in Spain, deducting the capital gain taxes that you eventually need to pay in the UK. But you have to do the calculation with the Spanish rules, and if it is more than the UK rules or another country, you have to pay in Spain for the
We have some sound gremlins again that's creeping in. Don't know what's happening there. Jason says, an expert will help, but if you sell after July, you will be in the second half of the tax year, so you won't pay capital gains tax.
Help me a little bit to understand the question. I'm not sure if I'm.
It's about paying capital gains on a property you sell in the UK before you move. If you move after the middle of the year.
Yeah. If you moved after July, you won't become fiscal resident until the following year. So That's a good tip, of course. Thanks, Jason, for mentioning it, because it is. It is, but if you sell it, for example, in March and you move to Spain in April, of course you are going to be a fiscal resident for that year in Spain. So it depends when your fiscal residence starts. So I probably didn't explain that but good enough on the last answer. Thanks for the help, Jason.
Excellent. Ant has explained what to grandfather in means. It means to allow it to continue if it's already being done by a family member, for example. This is about, yes, long and short-term rental.
Okay. So I guess that you mean that if the house or the property or the flat has a license, if this license can be part of the inheritance or something, if you can continue with the activity, if the property already has the license. If that's the question, the answer is yes. It depends of the property having license. If the property change, actually, it's something that increase the value of a property in the market is having the license, because there are a lot of people trying to buy places in buildings where the license is already done, because the new owner will the license will be transferred to the new owner, so the new owner can continue with the activity even if you buy it or if you inheritance the property. It doesn't matter.
Great. Let's get through the last two questions about non-residence tax. Yeah, then we can move on. We're already 45 minutes into the show and we want to get on to
We need to speed up the second.
Yeah. So very quickly, what documents should be prepared for the Spanish tax agency to justify income and expenses?
Yeah, well, the paperwork, very quickly, the main thing is that you have to have good records of all the bills, all the expenses that you are offsetting, and proofs of all the incomes. I always advise to manage everything through the bank, not get the money in cash, try to avoid that, and have records of all the incomes, all the expenses. All the expenses, it is very important that it has to be official bills with your complete information, name, identification reference. It could be your NIE number, or even your passport could be valid, but your name has to be there clearly shown. That is your bill, your expenses. And if the provider can put the address, for example, if you are buying a washing machine or something, ask to the provider to put the address of the place where this washing machine is going to be installed. So you have to keep records of all that for 5 years, because the tax office can come to do a tax audit during the next 5 years. So what we normally do is to open a Google Drive folder in our system and share with the client. So the client is updating all the bills that he has during the year for the expenses of the rental. And we keep records in our system for the following 5 years. So if a tax audit comes, all the paperwork will be there ready to be sent to the tax office, because if they send an audit, we have 10 working days to reply. So if the client is traveling or not available or whatever, you can miss the deadline and start getting in trouble with the tax office and get fines, penalties, etc. So it's very, very important to have good records. People tend to have, for example, a spreadsheet of the expenses, but are a little bit lazy to keep a folder with all the individual bills on there. And if you have a tax audit and you can only send the spreadsheet, the tax office will refuse all the expenses and will do a new calculation for the tax bill.
So that almost answers the final question, which is, what is a typical tax audit like for a non-resident taxpayer?
Actually, we have already partially answered to that question, because they send a letter, they give you 10 days to answer, and you have to send all the proof of tax residency in another country. Sometimes it's requested that as well, to prove that you are non-resident in Spain. And you have to send the invoices and the bills of your income and expenses of the property. And if the property is vacant, you normally have to send the cadastral receipt where is shown the cadastral value to see how you did the calculations.
Great. So let's move on. Well, before we move on to the second topic, actually, tell us about the relaunch of your YouTube channel. While I put the link up in the live chat.
Yeah, well, actually, we opened a channel last year, actually on the 22nd of February last year, which has been a casualty that we are doing this show today. So when we were talking about doing the show, I have been thinking for the last couple of months to relaunch the channel because we did some videos at the beginning and we had a very, very high pressure time of, I mean, we were plenty of job for a period of time during March, April, June. So I subestimate the time that I needed to do the videos. So I appreciate a lot. I mean, I don't know how you do it to do such a big amount of videos on your channel because you are a superstar doing that. So during this year, I have been studying a little bit better how to do it, improving the skill that I need for that about editing videos, etc. To be able to, because I want to do a product that I'm happy with. So I prefer to stop for a time, for a period of time, the videos, prepare a good planification of videos for doing good scripts for them, etc. So now I'm ready to do the relaunch. Actually, this night at 22:22 p.m., which is a lucky number 22. So we are going to do a relaunch video for the channel, and the channel is going to be with interesting information for those that are foreigner living in Spain or non-resident in Spain but with assets in Spain. A big portion of the audience will be self-employed in Spain, which is the second topic that we're going to talk briefly. And now it's for those audience, for those that are self-employed in Spain. So if you are on one of these three groups, resident in Spain, non-resident in Spain, but with some interest, economical interest in Spain, or self-employed in Spain, you will find interesting information, hopefully, I hope so, on our channel that could help you to understand a little bit better the crazy Spanish tax system and Spanish red tape, which is sometimes crazy, and we will try to make that easier to understand to you.
Brilliant. And of course, we'll keep on having Antonio back on the channel, and we'll have good links to his YouTube as well. So,
thank you.
Let's talk about self-employed contribution system then in Spain, because there have been some changes introduced, and I don't even understand it myself yet. So, how does it all work?
Okay, so well, the system actually, the whole system changed in January 2023, when they've been talking about this change for maybe the previous 10 years in Spain. The politics was dealing about how to do it, etc. So at the end of the day, the new system, the main change is that now the social security contribution that a self-employed person pays is based on the profit that is generating with the self-employed activity. So before, the people could choose the base of contribution and could choose how much they want to pay above the minimum, of course. But nowadays, you have to see in which bracket you are, depending on how much earnings you are generating with your activity. So depending in which bracket you are, you can choose a minimal or a maximum base of contribution, and based on that decision, you have to pay one on another quote. I think I sent you a picture to share on the screen that it could be useful now, maybe.
Yep. And there it is. Let's just get us back on the screen as well.
This is from the Social Security office straight away. So it is in Spanish, but I guess that is easy to understand because it's just numbers. So here is how the system has been changing since 2023. So if you see the first column in each case is the income, the net income. or the profit, as you prefer, of per month, the net profit per month, and the quote that you have to pay. Okay, I took this one, which has it hasn't the information about the base of contribution, because I think that it makes more complication as is more difficult to understand. So here you only have the brackets of the net profit that each person has and the quote that has to pay. So if you see how it has been varying, those brackets that are in a lower amount of income are paying a little bit less now than in 2023, but those that was in the higher brackets are paying now a little bit more than in 2023. So
Yeah.
now the difference between the lowest and the highest is more than it was in 2023. Now the differences are higher. So for example, the minimal that nowadays in 2025 and in the self-employed can pay is 200 euros if he's below 670 euros per month of net income, and in 2023 it was 230. So there is 30 euros less on the quote. And for those that are, for example, in the highest bracket, which is more than 6,000 euros, for example, last year it was 530, and this year is 590. It has been increased 60 euros. Okay, so here you can see how has been changed. Another, let me know what information else do you think that could be useful as cuts. I think that.
I can't think of anything else because I think that's quite clear. I think
We don't
all
have
of
a lot of time to finish the show, so it's up
no,
to
this
talk
is
about
true.
whatever you think that is more useful for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about the brackets and how they're determined. What are the minimum and maximum self-employed social security contributions in 2025? That's on that graph, isn't it? We've just looked at.
Yeah, well, the contribution in the graphic that we have shown is there are the brackets for the net income, but the base of contribution, which is a different thing, is not a fixed calculation, but is normally between 50 and 65% over the net profit. This is the base of contribution. If you are wondering what's exactly the base of contribution, is quite simple. It's the amount that the Social Security will use in case that it has to calculate, for example, your pension, or if you are unable to work for a period of time and they have to pay you a night during this period, they will use the base of contribution to pay you. So if you have, for example, an average net income of 2,000 euros, and your base of contribution is maybe, I don't know exactly, but say that it is maybe 1,300 euros, then if you have an accident, for example, where you are working, you will be paid a night of 100% of your base of contribution. So you will be paid 1,300 euros because this is your base of contribution, and this is the contribution that will affect also to your pension for the future, for doing the calculation for that. So around 50 and 65% of the net profits is the minimal base of contribution. The important thing is that between in each bracket, you have a bracket of base of contribution with a minimal and a maximum, so you can move between them and choose which one is the one that you want to be used to calculate your quote and to have a bigger or lower base of contribution for your rights.
Okay. So can a self-employed person change their contribution bracket during the year, and how many times?
Yeah, actually, you can change it up to 6 times a year, each 2 months. So, for example, if you change it now before ending February, the new base of contribution will affect you on March. And if you again between March and the end of April you change again, it will affect you in May. So each 2 months you can increase or decrease your base of contribution, and you should do that based on your expectations of income, if they vary during the year.
Okay. Ant has a question here. We understand that as Autonomos, we would have to charge VAT on all invoices, most invoices, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
What is the threshold for, I think he means IVA, for
Mm.
Autonomo? We've heard rumours the Spanish government may be considering a positive change in 2026.
Yeah, they've been talking about that for the last 2-3 years, which is called the franquicia de IVA franchisee. I don't know how to say that in English, sorry. But it hasn't been put in place yet, so they are still dealing with for that. So now, if you develop an activity as a self-employed and this activity is subject to VAT, not all the activities are subject to VAT. For example, a doctor, a psychologist. There are professions that are, except a writer, there are professions that doesn't have to pay VAT. But if you are in an activity that has to pay VAT, like a standard professional delivering services or buildings or whatever, then you have to add 21% of VAT is the standard rate. There is a reduction on 10% for some specific services, like, for example, home care or other things. But there is no threshold. It's from €1. I mean, if you are subject, you are subject, and you have to increase your invoices with the VAT from the first euro. Okay. Of course, all the information that is on the tables that we've been talking for choosing the bracket, we are talking about net income without VAT. This is very important. The VAT is not involved on calculating the contribution bracket that belongs to you. You have to do the calculation only using the base of your income and the base of your expenses, excluding the VAT. So for that, it's very important that all the accounts of your activity are well done to be able to split the VAT apart and has the calculation of how much profit do you have using only the income and expenses without VAT.
Good to know. Fortunately, I have a program that does all that for me.
Yeah, in Spain, as self-employed, need to use a gestoría to bring the accounts and a professional program to do all the accounting, because otherwise it's really, really hard to do it.
Okay. Moving quickly on to the next question. How does this system affect foreign self-employed individuals working in Spain?
Well, the system affects exactly the same than anyone else. I mean, there is no difference for being foreigner working in Spain. Of course, if you want to register as a self-employed in Spain and you are foreigner, you need a work permit if you are a non-EU citizen. But if you are an European citizen, you can do the registration when you have a work permit immediately. So they have to do exactly the same. There are not big difference between a Spaniard or an expat being self-employed in Spain. Is exactly the same rules.
Right. So the next question is talking about 2023. I don't quite understand why they're still working out taxes for 2023, but the question is, how is the Spanish Social Security carrying out the regularization of self-employed contributions for 2023?
Well, that's because the system has a delay, because for 2023, people has done the tax return in May and June 2024, and this information has been transferred to the Social Security office after that, and they've been studying for each person how much net profit they had in 2023. They've been studying that during the second part of 2024, the second half of 2024. So by the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, the Social Security office has been sending letters, and they are continuing sending them. They haven't finished yet, to all the self-employed people in Spain, to report to them if they've been paying correctly the Social Security contribution, or if they have paid less, or if they have overpaid, based on the information that they've got from the tax office about the net income of these self-employed people. This is why we are still talking about 2023, because now the Social Security office is doing the regularization for those.
I see. So are the different types of letter that are coming out, and what should you respond?
Yeah, well, I had some longer information to deliver to the audience, but I think that we won't have time for that. But mainly, there are three main cases, which is the first one is a letter where the Social Security office is saying that the Social Security contribution that you've been paying during the year has been has been correct, has been is matching with the net income that you've been declaring in your tax return. The second case is when you have been paying less, so the Social Security office is sending you a kind invitation to pay for the extra amount that you should be paying during 2023 and you didn't because you had a higher income than, I mean, you were in a lower bracket than you should be. And in the third case, or the third situation is when you have been overpaying, when you have been paying for a higher bracket and you should be in a lower bracket. So in this third case, which is the most complicated one, there are two options because if you have been paying more, you can choose to maintain some of the contributions, even it is more than you should pay. You could voluntarily decide that you want to keep these contributions to have a higher pension in the future or a higher coverage. Or maybe if you, for example, have had a work leave in 2023 and you've been paying a night during this period of time, if you now choose to get a rebate for the excess of the Social Security contribution, then you will need to pay back some or a portion of this aid because it was calculated with a higher base of contribution. So actually, this will be actually a mess between this side paying or not paying will be a mess for sorting it out. So voluntarily, you may need to choose to maintain the Social Security contribution, and you can do that always that the contribution that you have been applying up to the end of 2022 is enough to maintain. So I know that this is too much complicated, so in 2 minutes it's not possible to explain, but at the end of the day, there are these three options, and if you get the letter from the Social Security, what you have to do is to find a professional. I guess that everyone that is self-employed has a gestor that is explaining this situation to all the self-employed people. So just go to your gestor, ask them about what's better for you to do. And if you don't have a gestor, here we are.
Yes, indeed. Anthony has been saying a lot of things, saying thanks, Antonio. I think you've already answered this. Is income tax based on gross revenue or revenue after social charges deducted?
That's a good question. This was one of the things I wanted to talk. I don't know how much time we have to finish the show, but the thing is that to do the calculation of the profit or the net profit, what you have to do is to take first your gross income. You have to deduct all the expenses except the Social Security contributions, and then you have to deduct 7% of that profit as well. The 7% is because there is something which is called in Spanish gastos de difícil justificación, which is an expense, a virtual expense that we can offset for those little expenses that self-employed used to have on their daily basis, like, for example, parking ticket, or they have to take a taxi to go somewhere for something related to the job, or they have to go to a shop to do some photocopies for delivering something to a client. So, and you don't have a bill for this expense. So for these little expenses that you may have and you don't have a bill to prove that to the tax office allow you to offset 7% over the profit of this quarter, of each quarter. So the Social Security office, following this tax rule, allow you to offset again this 7%. So you have to take your gross income less expenses plus Social Security contribution that you're paying, because you cannot take that into consideration for calculating the net income for this purpose. and then you can deduct 7% of the profit that you had until that moment. And that final calculation is the number, is the amount that you have to use to go to the Social Security brackets and see in which one you are. I hope that this is clear.
I think so. I might have to watch back and and listen to that sentence again. Ant says regularisation are the bane of independent workers in France too, and he's suggesting there could be a number of more shows in the pipeline for the same thing for you both. Yes, that's possible. I'm sure we'll return in a
Happy
few
to come
months.
back if the audience want me to bother them again.
So, just before we come to the final question, if anyone has any more questions on the live chat, then do that now. Obviously, as I said before, there's a bit of a delay. So, while Antonio's answering the final question, put your questions down there so we can get them in before the end of the show. So, final one is, how can a self-employed person plan and manage their contributions correctly to avoid unexpected adjustments?
Well, the main thing is to monitor the income regularly to anticipate any changes that you have to do on the contribution bracket. So usually what we are doing now is with each client, each quarter, when we end the quarter, we check how much is the net profit until that moment of the year. We are going to do, for example, now the first quarter in April. So when we do the first quarter of 2025, we are going to check on the Gestoria how much is the net income of each client, in which bracket they are, and in which bracket they should are. So if they are in a different bracket where they should, we will advise them to move to a higher or lower bracket. We are going to be more focused on those that has to increase the bracket, because if you have to decrease it, it's not that bad, because you maybe you are paying a little bit more, but sooner or later you will get the rebate. So it's not a problem, but it is a problem if you are paying less than you should and you think that that's enough, and the following year you find a big bill from the Social Security office coming that you have to pay at once, and that could be a financial problem if you are expecting that.
Great. So Matt David says, watching you two, now I fancy boiled eggs for breakfast. That's a joke about us being bald, I think. So, and Ant says, grandes respuestas, muy preciado, Antonio.
De nada.
And great show. Thanks, Scats, and great info from Antonio. Thank you also. There's a lot of thank yous coming in. Wayne says, thank you both. Very informative show. Hasta pronto.
Hope to see you soon.
Yes, Kevin Burrock says, this show has been extremely informative. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, Kevin.
Excellent. So show your appreciation using the QR code. And that is, in fact, all that we have time for this week. So don't forget, while you're still here, click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll tell you in a moment who your special guest will be next week. But first, let's give Antonio a big virtual kiss and a hug and say goodbye for now. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
I hope to see you everyone this night on my relaunch of my channel. So try to, I invite you to follow the link on the description and subscribe to our channel, which is a complementary information for all the interesting and useful information that Scott always share with his audience. And we are going to be more focused in the fiscal, labor, and taxes, etc. information. So if you are self-employed, resident or non-resident in Spain, but foreigner, which I guess that you are, or you wouldn't be here, I guess that our channel could be interesting for you. So I hope to see you there as well.
Absolutely. What's the channel called?
The channel, the name is Paperwork in Spain. Our website is paperwork.es. So we sorted out Paperwork in Spain, so we thought that this was an easy name to remember for the audience. So if you follow the link below in the description, you will find the channel. There are just a few videos. As I said, we started last year and we stopped with 2 or 3 videos, and we are going to do the relaunch now. So I hope that this time is the good time, and we are going to keep uploading 1-2 videos per week, with hopefully useful information for the audience.
Great. The link isn't in the comment. It's not in the comments or the video description right yet, but the minute this show is finished,
It will be in a minute.
I will put it there. Yes. So if you're watching back afterwards, it's there already, and also Antonio's website is already up there anyway, and it has been for I don't know, ever since you first did the show, I think so.
Anyway, if you put on YouTube shirts paperwork in Spain, you will see my face around, so you will easily find it.
Brilliant. Okay, so thanks very much, Antonio. Everybody wave goodbye.
Thanks to you always, Scott, and thanks for the audience for being so patient with my English pronunciation and my difficulties for understanding sometimes the question, but hopefully I think that we have met with all of them, hopefully.
We have indeed. So goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
There we go. So wasn't that wonderful and helpful? I'll just check if there's been any more messages. Paul Cook, great info, good show again. And there you go. And Kat says, will do, Antonio. So yeah, everybody subscribe to Antonio's YouTube channel. And so, who do I have on the show next week? Well, of course, I mentioned it earlier on in the show. It's Chris from Upsticks with our regular fortnightly format where we answer all of your questions. And the main feature next week will be the one that we were going to do last week. It's all about the new residency rules for people on the non-lucrative visa. There's a few changes to that you need to know. The laws have been published and will be activated on May the 20th of this year. That's 2025 if you're watching back in the distant future. And of course we'll be having our regular Ask Us Anything and frequently asked questions, plus the very popular argument that we have, which is just becoming a bit of a laugh at the end of the show, about something important or hilarious or both. You can ask questions in advance on our Facebook page or the Facebook group and you will be answered. So thanks to all of you for joining us and leaving comments and hitting the like button and supporting us with donations and memberships. It's all very much appreciated because, well, this is free information that you're getting. So if you think it's been useful to you then and of value to you, then work out what the value is worth and send us a donation. And I will see you either on the midweek video at 6 p.m. Spanish time on Wednesday, or on the vlog on Friday on the Still Alive channel, which might actually be moving back again to U2 Spain, so that it's all in the one place again, now that it's a general vlog rather than just being about my health. Anyway, that's on Fridays, still at 6 p.m. Spanish time, or we'll see you next Saturday morning with Chris at 10 o'clock in the morning Spanish time. That's all for this week. Someone pass around the tax cookies. There's 21% more of them this week, or 24% if you're a non-resident. Peace and love, peas and fluff. And here's one final message from all of the voices in my head here at U2 Spain. Bye for now.
Wave goodbye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peas and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.